Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Come on in. Come on in. Great to see everybody. Welcome to Money in the Morning. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I got up this morning, and I'm sorry to say that I was not in the 5 a.m. club. I got up super early yesterday, went to the gym, and did a lot of weightlifting and running and all that stuff. And today I decided to give myself a rest day. Because I don't know, I'm sleeping next to the most beautiful woman in the world, so I thought that it would be nice to kind of cuddle with her for a little bit. And so, but then again, that was part of the plan, right? I think that you should have a balance between working hard and being nice to yourself. Work hard and play hard, because I think that that's what gives you a happy life. So today I played hard a little bit. Anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. And speaking of playing hard, sometimes you may come by my YouTube channel and see me kicking it with the brothers and actually playing Call of Duty. I found a group of really cool brothers between ages 30 and 55 that love to play video games like I used to. And I got into it because I wanted to hang out with our son a little bit more, because I've been teaching him stuff like stock options and all that. And when you're a bonus dad, you find every way you can to connect with the kids. So we bonded around money and video games, and so I learned how to play Call of Duty because I wanted to have give us something to talk about, and I love this so much that I just said I'm gonna keep on playing because this game is fun. So every now and then, what I'll do is I'll go on my YouTube channel, Dr. Boyce TV, com, and I'll be playing Call of Duty, but I'll be talking. We talk about all kinds of stuff. We'll talk about politics and sports and money, so if you ever wanted to sneak in and ask me a question, that's a good time to come in and ask me a question. Come in and hang out. In fact, there's one doctoral student, Jordan Cagle, that I did an interview with, and he's doing really great work with Black boys. I don't know if Jordan's in here today or not, but I really had a lot of respect for him, and he was in the chat, and he came in and played with us, and we just had a blast. So I'm telling you, if you haven't ever tried it, you don't know what you're missing. But if you ever want to come by and hang out and see what we're up to, feel free to come by the channel. It's actually kind of fun. I just had to explain that because some people are like, why are you having fun? You're supposed to be talking about finance. I'm like, I don't talk about finance all day, every day, fool. Like I live my life. I'm a human being. Or on my Instagram, people are like, why would you post that? You're a professor. You shouldn't I'm like, well, because I'm a guy. I'm a human being. I'm a black man. I'm a dude. I just do regular dude stuff. But then also I happen to have a PhD in finance. But if somebody works at UPS, you ain't delivering packages 24 hours a day. Am I lying? Give me a guess if you understand where I'm coming from. If you work at Ford, you're not working on Ford motor trucks 24 hours a day. So no, I have fun. And also the other thing that's really cool about life and the internet and social media is that it kind of makes itself conducive to the point where conducive to the idea that you can just talk to people. I like just talking to you. I mean, sure, I can share knowledge and information, everything else. And again, if you want to drill into that stuff, I'm loaded with all kinds of information that can help you. There's stuff that I do for myself financially and for my family and my wife that I am happy to share with you. In fact, later on today at noon, we're doing a stock options income event for beginners. So if you want to come by at noon, I'll give you guys the link where you can actually come on in. It's called Prime 101. It's kind of for beginners. And then if you are in the Prime program, I encourage you to come to class on Monday. You got to come to class on Monday because I ran the numbers on one of the options income strategies. And what I found is that you can actually make your portfolio much safer. You know how you have the ups and the downs, and it's really hard to kind of deal with the volatility. Well, I found that you can make your portfolio super safe and still generate a really high ROI, like a really high profit on your options business. So I hope you guys will join us on Monday. If you're in the Prime program. If you're not in the Prime program, I'll send you guys a link to do a $1 trial if you want to try it out for a month, and it's $3.99 per month after that. So, but the goal is, this isn't like college where you go and you spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars and they give you nothing in return. What I want you to kind of measure is ask yourself this basic question. Am I making more money than it cost me to be in this program? If the answer is yes, then that's a definite. And if you don't, if you don't expect at some point that you can make more than you're spending, then that doesn't make sense for you. So I want you to be in a position where you say, yeah, this isn't free. This does cost some money, but it's a fair price. It's because I see people charging tens of thousands of dollars for stuff, and just I would just be really careful about that because a lot of people are really good at kind of getting you hyped up to sign up for something, and you're not really getting the kind of value that they promise. And they charge insane amounts of money, and especially when you talk about stocks and options, a lot of these people just aren't qualified, to be honest with you. Like, they don't. I can identify quickly if somebody knows what they're talking about with the stock market. And there are some people who literally will take one class on stocks and say, I can show you all everything you need to know about stocks, but they don't really understand what's going on. So anyway, if you want to join us today at noon, you can sign up at Prime 101. I'll send you guys the link. I don't have the URL. Actually, I'll put something in the chat if you guys want to join us today. I think I have the $1 trial link, and you guys can try that out. And also, if you are already in the class and you're looking for stuff, don't forget you got a really great support team. We have an excellent support team. The email address is support@theblackbusinessschool.com. That's support@theblackbusinessschool.com. So feel free to reach out to them if you can't find something, you're looking for something. I'm trying to find this dollar trial. Here we go. Here's the code if you want to do a dollar trial in the program. Some of you have been thinking about it, you've heard about it. And some of you are already in it. And so if you, whatever your true honest feelings are about the program so far, feel free to share that in the chat, because I don't want, there's no hocus pocus here. This is not hype. This is all substance. It's not built to be flashy. But there's a lot of opportunity there when it comes to options. In fact, I'll tell you guys this. When I showed my son, finally, how your kids don't listen to you. Kids, like, you can literally have the keys to like the universe, and your children just will not listen to you, and they'll listen to like some stupid person on the street before they listen to you. Just know you're not alone. Like, I go through this too. Our kids, me and my wife, they don't even know. First of all, our kids don't even realize how rare it is to have two college professors as parents in your house. Like I didn't meet a college professor. I didn't meet a black college professor or any college professor until I was like 19 years old. And so the fact that they have two black college professors in their house is right. That rate is very rare. But it's funny because they think that that's just normal. So we'll try to explain stuff to them, and they'll just be like, yeah, 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 whatever, right? And so anyway, I finally got the oldest to start listening because he's now at the age where he needs money. And I was like, well, if you want me to, I can show you how I make money. It's actually easy. It's easier than like whatever that crappy job is that you have. And he was like, okay, I'm ready to learn. So we sat down and I showed him. We were talking, we were messing around with like Starbucks stock, and then there was another stock. I forgot what it was. And I just kind of showed him. And after we got done, he got super excited about it. And I was like, yeah, if you're still listening, I can tell you some more stuff that I think will help you, or I can wait until you're like 30 years old and tell you after you've made a bunch of mistakes. And he's like, well, I'd like to know right now. So what I explained to him is I said, one thing you got to know about America and life in general is that the people that make the most money in this country are the people who work the least. It's not that they don't work. They just work differently, right? Wealthy people, it's not that they're all a bunch of lazy bums and sit around and just drink lattes and champagne all day. They just work differently. They have a different kind of layout. Their financial awareness is just slightly different in the sense that your awareness is driven partly also by your exposure. So because so if you're born in a family where you're exposed to the banker, exposed to the real estate portfolio, exposed to the businesses, exposed to the stock market, then you're gonna kind of think about wealth in a different way than somebody who was just exposed to a job, who was like, okay, that's Mr. Charlie over there. Make sure you're nice to him and make sure you fill out 50 job applications, and then somebody will give you some work. Somebody will, and that awareness affects culture. We've talked about this. It affects also the standards that you set for yourself in terms of what you hope to achieve economically. So I talked to a brother the other day. Actually, I think it was the doctoral. No, no, it was either the doctoral student. I get it mixed up, or another guy, a really great guy named Kyle that I met out of California, and he's a businessman and he's doing really well. He does stuff in cybersecurity and IT, doing extremely well in his business. And we did a one-on-one consultation because he's looking to transition over and make money without having to get up and go to work every day. And he was telling me that one challenge that he has with young people that he talks to is when he's trying to expose them to, for example, all the money that's being made in cybersecurity, which is a growing industry. Lord Jesus, I mean, with AI, cybersecurity is going to be huge, and he'll try to get them started on it. But a lot of them, all they really want is to get some little the guard card. He said that they call it, where you can become a security guard. Yeah, so he said about 80% of the black males that he works with. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this, but he said 80% of the black males that I try to talk to about economic opportunities, all they want to do is work in a warehouse or become a security guard. And that's because of what they were exposed to. That's a consciousness cultural issue. And so really, if you really want your kids to just kind of to be in a good spot, you got to expose them to things. Maybe expose them to me, bring them to class or something. They can kind of hear different ideas and standards. Like what the standards and expectations are, that really shapes how far you go. I think that a lot of where you go is really shaped by whether you think big or you think small, where you tend to apply your effort and your energy. I know a lot of people, and it's not just about intelligence level or education. I was in academia and I knew some of the smartest people on the freaking planet with, doctorates and straight A students and all this stuff. And I can't tell you how many times I met super smart people who were broke and struggling because they think small. Like, right, like so for example, what they do to us in academia, the way they brainwash us is not in academia, is they train you to put all your intellectual energy into solving some tiny little problem. Like you might be a person who is an expert on infertile worms from Ecuador or something, right? Just something so tiny and obscure that 99.9% of the world doesn't give a damn about what you're working on. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, right? So if you're a researcher on infertile worms from Ecuador, I'm not disrespecting what you do, but what people forget is that the training's almost like a pyramid. For you to get to that point where you can really analyze whether a worm from Ecuador is going to be able to have children or not. I don't even know if worms have kids. This is an analogy I'm literally making up as we go along. You have to learn a lot about biology. You have to learn a lot about science. You have to do a lot of processing of high level information in a lot of fields to be able to narrow in on that specific tiny little niche that you're in. So if you get caught to the point where you're mentally trapped in your niche and you don't see all the other amazing skills that you've developed along the way, then that can put you into a horrible, ugly economic trap where you end up like a lot of people I know that have advanced degrees, PhDs and stuff, who are literally on welfare. Like there are college professors that are on welfare. There are professors at major universities that can barely pay the bills. And, or definitely like community college professors, maybe who went to great schools, worked extremely hard, spent a lot of years in school, and are making the same amount of money as a McDonald's manager. I think that that should challenge you a little bit in the sense that it doesn't mean that you're goofy, stupid, or that you wasted your time. I'm not here to say that at all. I don't want you to feel bad, but I want you to know your worth. I want you to understand that sometimes we think that we have no value because the place where we're applying our value doesn't see our value. Right? I'm showing up speaking eloquent Chinese, just extremely wonderful Mandarin, but you only understand Spanish, so you're telling me that I'm speaking gibberish, and I believe you. I'm like, well, damn, all these years I spent studying Chinese is a waste of time because to the people that matter to me, they think it sounds like gibberish or almost like being in a relationship where you could be the greatest catch in the world. You could be the most beautiful woman on the planet, but your man is like, I don't like skinny women. I don't like thin girls. I want them big. And so you're kind of gross to me. And so you think you're gross because your man likes the big girls. And then you don't realize that there are men out here that love a thin woman. Right. So the same thing is true in professionally speaking. A lot of us get in an economic trap where we don't understand how to extract the value out of the skill set that we've developed, and we become beholden to the people that we're dependent upon to extract that value for us. Meaning, if I'm a PhD and I've spent all these years in school and I've hustled my butt off, studied 8, 9, 10 hours a day for the last 6, 7 years, and then my university doesn't see my worth and they don't want to pay me right or they want to get rid of me, then I feel like I have no worth. I think that's a problem. I think that that is a that's a consciousness issue. It's kind of a self-esteem issue. It's one of these things that requires some thought, some financial consciousness and meditation for you to realize that you are incredibly valuable. You're smart. You know how to do stuff. You know how to learn things. Your capacity for consuming knowledge and applying it is extraordinary. Your work ethic is amazing. How the hell can you tell me that somebody who's super smart, super well trained, can learn anything at lightning speed and works their ass off isn't worthy, isn't valuable, economically speaking? You're valuable. You just aren't applying the value in a place where your value is going to be appreciated. So that might mean going out and expanding your skill set. One thing I had to do was, I was sitting there and I was actually paid pretty well by my university. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I had haters on the Syracuse University campus because when I came in, because I was a superstar, I was the only African American on the planet to get a PhD in finance that year. I had the highest salary amongst all the assistant professors, and I made more money than all the associate professors, which was a notch above. That was the associates who had tenure. I made more money than all of them too. Right? So you want to talk about a black boy getting hated on? I mean, I didn't even understand it at that time. I assumed everybody loved everybody, but when I look back at it, I'm like, yeah, if I was him, I would have been mad at me too. So I was making good money, but the thing was, I didn't like the way I was treated. I didn't like the fact that they didn't appreciate the work I wanted to do for the African American community. I didn't like the fact that every time I did something that was extra black, I would get punished. I would be celebrated in the black community, but punished in my white community, in the white space. So I said, I got to get the hell up out of here. These people, this is terrible. And so one thing I remember feeling like, as I said, wait a minute, hold on. If I'm supposed to have all this education, I started realizing that most business school professors have never run a business. And most business school professors don't know how to make money without getting a paycheck. And I said, that's kind of a contradiction. That's a bit of an oxymoron. I need to fix that. That's kind of weird that I can only pay my bills if this person's feeding me financially, if they're giving me this check. So I said, how do people pay their bills without a job? So I started researching that. I started listening to podcasts of people who don't go to work every day but still make money. I started, kind of really thinking carefully about my own limitations in terms of what I was and was not taught. And it led me to think about culture and just how the job culture had been so deep in my experience and deep in my family. And I said, no, I'm rebelling against that. We're going to escape that, because the thing is, if you are able to pay me money for my skill set, then I should be able to also pay myself. I should be able to also extract just as much wealth out of me as you can extract out of me, right? So my point is to say that I think sometimes when we don't have the right exposure and the right experience, we can really limit ourselves, and that's how you have these really hardworking, intelligent people who end up becoming like, warehouse guards or something because that's all that they were exposed to. I would argue, in fact, that I would rather be a person of average intelligence who thinks big than to be a genius who thinks small. If you're a genius who thinks small, you're not going to accomplish much. You're going to do very small things really, really well. Right? So you're going to do small things that no one cares about, and you're going to be really damn good at it. It's almost like me counting the number of tiles in the ceiling in my house or something, right? Or the number of cracks. 2,347,842 tiny micro cracks in the ceiling. That's hard to do, but it doesn't necessarily add value. It's a tiny task, but it's done extremely well. So I would almost say that if you are wise and you're trying to expand your thinking economically, you got to push yourself outside the box a little bit. And I think you have to maybe start with this premise that you don't know nearly as much as you need to know. And then also an added premise would be that there are people out there that know what I need to know. So I'm going to go out into the world and listen and hear enough stories and see enough experiences and get enough exposure to expand my thinking. But then also, I'm not going to limit my kids in their thinking. So it's because I sat there and I just was telling our son the other day, I was like, dude, to be honest with you, I said, if I'd known what at your age, what I know now, I don't even think I would have went to college. I would have went to the best entrepreneurship program I could possibly find and did a year of intense training in how to run a business. Maybe 2 years, whatever. I definitely wouldn't have spent 8, 9, 10 years trying to get a PhD so I can get a great job. I literally would have spent 2 years as a black man, based on where my experience would be as a black man, where you don't get the same opportunities, you don't get the same jobs. I don't believe these white folks like us that much. I just don't. And I'm not offended by it because I just think it's human nature. And I know the history. I've read, the Dr. Claude Anderson books, and he breaks it down. Like when I see, I'm like, oh, so they've hated us for 400 years. Now I know why they treat us like this, you know? And so you know, in hindsight, that's what I would have done, because the beauty of it is, once you get past this idea that they love you, and you start realizing that what matters is that you have to love yourself and love each other, then you can get to the business of really doing business and moving forward with an understanding of what your opportunities are and your limitations are, and you can apply your energy in the right way. So if I am a black man and I say, you know, I'm 21 years old, and I realize, okay, you know what? They probably will never see my true value. They'll probably never give me what I'm truly worth for the work that I do, and the energy I put in. But I can get my value. I can extract my value. I just have to pick up a different skill set. I'm not a white boy. I'm not white. I'm going to have to learn things that maybe I wouldn't have to learn if I was white, and had a fully developed economic ecosystem ready to receive me and to reward me for the work that I put in. Right. That's the difference. And so that to me would limit a lot of frustration. Also, the beauty of it is, if you master those specific skills at an early age, the sky's the limit at that point. You then have that possibility that maybe you run across a business idea with your homeboys that generates $1 million a month, and you guys are literally living at the highest heights of society, because you didn't get on the crowded freeway, you drove on the side streets where it's wide open. Do you understand? Or maybe your consciousness caused you to elevate, right? I was telling you that about like getting in an airplane, and you go, instead of operating in two dimensions where you have limited numbers of dimensionality, limited possibilities for yourself, you rise up to that next dimension, where now you're in a helicopter or an airplane and you can fly over the traffic. And what I found was that when I went the unbeaten path, see, a lot of us are scared. We're scared to try something different. We're scared to do something different from what everybody else is doing. We're scared to do something different from what we were trained to do. When I went off the unbeaten path, I found that there was no competition. You know, when I first started doing what I was doing, I didn't have any competition. There was no other black finance PhD that was actually as passionate about black wealth as I was. I was literally out there all by myself. All by myself. And even to this day, I still am. You know, now fortunately, there's a lot of, my dream was to see more black men really embracing economics. And now we have that. Now we have InvestFest and all that. And I love all that. I love to see us talking about generational wealth as if that is the standard now. But it wasn't the standard in 2006, 2007. It was, you know, I was sort of doing this thing by myself. And the hard part is that you don't have a blueprint. You don't have a lot of support. People don't really understand what you're doing or why or how or anything like that. But I was like, you know what? I'll just make them understand. I'll help them understand why black people have to realize that it's our economics that's really keeping us where we are. That if we nail this investing thing, if we nail this wealth thing, that's going to solve a lot of our problems. It's going to take us out of that loop of frustration that so many of us feel, where we do the same thing. We go to school, work hard on our jobs. We work hard in school. We show up and we vote every election. Think about this. You do everything right. You're not breaking the law. You are working your ass off on that job. You went to school and got whatever degrees you thought you needed to have. You then, when they tell you to get up and vote, you go out and vote, and then, but then nothing's really changing, and you're still frustrated, right? So that clearly states that whatever we're doing is not working, and I think it's not working because we're working within a system. And I don't think that system is the system's kind of designed to keep you at a certain level. And I kind of want to bust out of that. And so that means that being radical is kind of expected. That's something that you have to do. You have to either create alternative systems, tear down the existing systems, whatever it's going to take. I don't necessarily think we need to tear down American capitalism to be successful, though. I think that we can just build alternative economic systems that allow us to support each other, that will help us to become more successful. And it's not just about being successful, it's also about being free. So success and freedom are kind of linked though, right? Because if I'm economically successful, then I'm not beholden to the people who are providing for me economically. You can't really go that far in America as a black man if the white man is always your economic daddy. That's just the reality. That's just and people just, I don't know how people feel about that. I think that you know, when I talk like that, it jars people, and people think, oh, you're a racist and you're mean. And no, it's just, I don't, you know, I just don't see that. I don't really think, because your daddy don't love you. Your daddy loves himself, and your daddy is he's been beating up on you for like 400 years. He's, you know, he doesn't really want your men to run around here all masculine and stuff. That's a threat. That's very scary for him. He needs your men to be either weak or exterminated. Either they're either beaten down or gone. One or the other. Either he has to be submissive and a beta or a woman, or he has to be in prison, or we got to kill him. One of those those are that. If you think about this, look at the outcomes of the black male in America. Look at what happens, especially when we start with the school system in terms of how black boys are educated and all that. They're kept dumb as hell. They're not really pushed to excel and to be critical free thinkers. They come out where 70 some percent of them can't even read or write or do math at grade level. Right. And then it's like, well, yeah, and then you have this sort of energy that's sort of pushing them toward specific areas, right? Specific ghettos, almost like what we call the ghettoization of black professionals, right? Where it's like, yeah, go over here and be a rapper, go over here and be a basketball player, or you can go over and be a thug, a street guy, or something like that. But these other professions over here, these are not for you. These are not for you. Right. And so effectively, when I look around and most of us know people in this category, you either have a guy that comes out of high school without any skills to be successful anyway, even if he wanted to be, right? Because he doesn't have the reading, writing, or math skill to even compete with people from around the world, people from Asia and India and all these people competing for the best jobs in society. So a lot of times he doesn't have the skill set, or he's distracted by bad culture. Maybe he's off running around chasing women, getting high and drunk, or whatever, doing whatever his favorite rapper told him to do. Or if he's too radical, he'll be marginalized or incarcerated, and in some cases killed. Perhaps through even things as insidious as what they might call Planned Parenthood. I'm not saying, again, I'm not telling you what your politics needs to be about that. I can just say though that my mother was told to abort me, and it wasn't for any reason other than the fact that she didn't have a lot of money, right? And I just thought that was really interesting that it wasn't that she would have been an unfit mom. I mean, she got trained to be a mother and she did a great job. It was literally due to money, right? So if you tell every single poor single mother, like, hey, you just need to go ahead and get rid of this baby, um, then you're gonna get rid of a lot of babies because we don't have a whole lot of money. There's a lot of babies that are born without money all around the world, and their mothers, and I think that so it's not really about what the decision is and something like that that bothers me. It's more so like, why did you make that decision? Is money literally the only reason that you're deciding whether or not your seed gets to live or die? I would encourage people to think a little deeper than that, because I don't think money should decide life or death. Not whether you're talking about a newborn baby or you're talking about even somebody who can't afford their medication. Right? This is what capitalism does. Capitalism says, well, if you can't afford to buy medicine, then you should be dead, and that's just not healthy. That's not a good thing, right? We shouldn't have a society where we're told that not having enough money means you don't get to live. Life should be a basic human right. And so anyway, with that being said, though, I will say that if you have a black boy, especially, and you want your black boy to reach his fullest potential, that's really going to have to be your job. You're going to have to sort of take him off the track a little bit and kind of give him the real deal, the real conversation. You can even bring him to my class, and you know me, I'm gonna give him the real deal and really tell him how America really works. Because I think that when we are given a fantasy about how America is supposed to work, we end up getting our feelings hurt. We end up angry. Right? Give me a guess if you've seen that. Give me a guess if you have felt this yourself. Have you ever felt angry because the so-called American dream didn't show up the way you thought it would? Give me a guess if you've ever been angry, maybe because you were discriminated against. You didn't get the job that you should have gotten, even though you worked just as hard as the white girl and y'all applied for the same job and she got the job and you didn't, or maybe somebody got the less qualified, got a promotion you deserved. Just whatever, right? You get mad. You get really mad. And I think and that's what happens when somebody feeds you a fantasy from birth, and then you get into the real world and you think the fantasy will apply, then you're gonna be pissed. You're gonna be like, damn, like you ain't doing this, you're not doing it the way you're supposed to do it. I think that happens a lot in relationships, to be honest with you. I think that we give people this fantasy about marriage, like, oh, everything's gonna be wonderful and everybody's gonna always treat each other right, and women are always gonna be sweet and loving, and men will never cheat and whatever, right? And then things happen and people are like, you broke my heart. That was terrible. And but you know, I grew up in a family where I watched my parents fight through 50 years. This is their 50-year wedding anniversary in October. Next month is their 50-year wedding anniversary. And it ain't not wasn't no fantasy involved in getting through that 50 years. It was almost like when I ran my first marathon. I thought that running your first marathon would feel really good and you'd be strong and you'd be moving through and you'd smile across the finish line. That was not the reality. It was horrible. I think I wanted to just shoot myself after mile 7. It was the most excruciating, terrible experience ever. Me and my wife were fighting in that race because she's like, come on, boys, run faster. I was like, I'm not running faster. Just be happy that I didn't stop running because I hate this shit. Right. So running the marathon, I got a picture. I look happy. Like it looks like a beautiful day, but it was terrible. It was one of the worst days of my life. But I did it, right? I did it. Now I get to be proud that I made it, but there was no fantasy involved in accomplishing that. And I think that that's just true in general. Like, you know, the fantasies don't work. The racial fantasies don't exist. I think that the best thing a kid can do is to really be trained to see America for what it is and not America for what it's supposed to be or what they were taught that it is in school. And I think that you're the best. That's why I think you're the best teacher for that black child. You should be talking to that boy and helping him understand. Like, look, son, you know, if you ain't got no money, a lot of these women ain't gonna respect you. I believe that. I'm sorry. Forgive me if I disrupt your sensibilities or offend anyone by saying this. I think a lot of women have a hard time respecting a man who either isn't providing anything or and it isn't trying, right? I think it's the trying part that really bothers a lot of women too. I just think that men and women are different. And I know that we want our to do our best to have this gender neutral society, but if you read any biology book ever written in the history of all mankind, 99% of them will tell you that men and women are just so different. We are just it's like a Tesla and a hamburger. Like they are two different things, two different machines, and they operate differently. And I think honesty is better than having someone sort of think that things are supposed to work the way they work in a textbook. And you know, in fact, that it goes to the highest levels. Even a lot of professors, again, in business schools, can't run a business because they know what's in the book, but they don't know what's in the world. And I think that the world itself is a giant textbook, and I think that's the best place where for young people to be taught. And if you teach them that in the right way, then what you can do is you can kill off the fantasy and then help them get fixated on understanding the reality. And at first, it's a little cynical. It hurts their feelings and makes them sad a little bit. But then once you get past that, you start to open up tremendous possibility because they're operating not based on the way things should work, but on the way things actually do work. And I can tell you, once I kind of grabbed onto that, you know, things it was very easy to kind of get a lot of things done. You know, I knew who not to depend on. I knew that a lot of the hard work was going to have to be done by myself. I knew that even a lot of black people aren't going to really support what I'm doing until they see that it's actually working. Then people tend to get on board with things that are actually working. And so anyway, one thing I want to mention really quickly too, before I forget is here's another thought that I had this morning. I wanted to make this recommendation for anybody that wants to be economically successful. I'm really super convinced today, and I got to bring my wife in this week so she can help reaffirm this. I think that a lot of your economic possibilities are limited by the fact that so few people actually take the time to get some type of therapy or some type of training in therapeutic techniques. You know, why do I say this? Well, because I thought about this. Let's just start with just relationships. We talked about how healthy relationships are conducive to economic success. You know, and it's just as simple as realizing that life is easier when you have teammates. If you have a teammate and you're accomplishing the same goal and you can stay on the same page, you're going to be more effective than an individual trying to do it by themselves. For example, when I told you I play Call of Duty with my homeboys sometimes on my YouTube channel, one way that we beat up all the you know that we're able to beat all these crazy 12-year-olds and stuff that are on the game is because we do one basic thing: we stick together, we work together as a team. So the kids are better than us. They're fast. There's something about getting older where you're not as quick with your thumbs and stuff. But so the kids are fast and they're really good and they come in and they can kill everything, but they can't beat four people against one. Like when we all work together, we're like, okay, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead, and you keep going. It's really sad though that you got these little kids playing these violent games. It's so terrible. Anyway, but with that point, my point is to say that that we know that healthy relationships impact your economic outcomes. Give me a yes if that point is made and you understand this, and if you agree with me that a person that has healthy relationships with others is going to do better financially than somebody who's not. A wife who has a husband is on average going to have a better economic outcome than a wife without a good husband, right? A man who can work with other people on a business is going to be more successful than a person who is the solo asshole who just alienates everyone and doesn't work with other people and tries to do it all by himself or herself. Give me a yes if you understand that. Okay, so given that that's true, here's what I thought about today. It's a subtle point, and I want to make sure I make it clearly because it can almost sound like something I've said before, but it's deeper because I literally had this epiphany on this today. Your mental health is deeply connected to your ability to just get along with other people. And I was actually thinking about myself and how to better who I am. And I thought about times. Let me know if you let's have a confessional real quick. How many of you have ever had a situation where you burned a bridge with a person because you were overly emotional? How many of you maybe have a relationship that you think about a long time ago? Maybe some girl you loved and y'all had a bad day and you said something you could never take back, or maybe you had a friend and your feelings were hurt, and because your feelings were hurt, you ended that friendship and you've regretted it ever since. Or maybe you've been in business with someone and something went wrong, and because you didn't know how to deal with it and your emotions got elevated, you made a drastic move where you're like, damn, if I could have really thought about that, I wouldn't have done that. Right. And well, here's what I want you. Okay, so here's what I want you to understand is that that kind of compulsive thinking, that kind of highly charged emotional reaction, number one, it happens much more frequently in heavily traumatized people. Heavily traumatized people, once they're in the middle of the trauma, it's almost like being emotionally drunk and you just kind of go off. And maybe again, deep down, it might be because you are dealing with your fear of abandonment because your dad left when you were 5, or your mother never loved you. So when that woman acts like she's gonna leave or is mean to you, it just triggers you or whatever. And or maybe you alienate yourself because you don't like rejection or whatever it is, right? I think everybody's got these like weird little scars from childhood and stuff, and it can cause you to just overreact to stuff where you like, no, well, no friends. Because really, that's your inner child kind of reacting to something that you're experiencing in adulthood. And children shouldn't be making important decisions in your life. You shouldn't, your decisions are not going to be good ones if they're being made by a child. But that's what happens in again, I'm being an armchair psychologist here. My wife is the one who really studies psychology, but that's what I realized. I said, sometimes, man, sometimes Boyce the child is the one that's reacting to what happened to Boyce the man. And Boyce the child doesn't make good decisions for Boyce. He doesn't. When Boyce the child makes a decision, he'll cut his arm off to spite his face, or whatever they said, cut your nose off to spite your face, right? He'll burn a bridge, or he'll end a relationship when that where it's really something that's not that big of a deal or something that could have been worked through. And I don't want the child making decisions for me because the child makes crappy decisions. The child makes really bad economic decisions. Did you know most studies show pretty much that most of your spending decisions are very emotional. The child does not make good business decisions. The child does not make good decisions as a husband. You get your feelings hurt in marriage. You get your feelings hurt a lot in marriage. And you have to know how to process that. So here's my point. Here's what I'm proposing to you to consider. I think that those who work deliberately on emotional intelligence and emotional maturity are gonna do better in every area of life, particularly in their economics. Because what emotional maturity will help you do is when you find yourself being triggered, you can identify when the trigger has occurred, and you will be able to use therapeutic techniques to work yourself through it so that you don't blow up the building. Do you understand what I'm saying? And the more traumatized you are, the more you need these techniques. And this is what therapists can do for you. Therapists can show you basic things like deep breathing, like how to like stop, like when you know you're about to say something crazy, how to stop, walk away, take some deep breaths, and spend some time processing it. I can tell you, every marriage has its rough days, and if I get really mad at my wife and I'm in my right mind, when Boyce the child is not in the building and he's not making the decision, and Boyce the adult is there, Boyce the adult will have a reaction and realize, okay, I'm about to say something that I can't take back, and I love this woman, and I just don't realize it right now. So I'm gonna literally stop talking to you right now so that I can go and process this, and then we're going to talk about it later when I'm a little calmer. And almost every single time, the way I respond is different once I've had a little bit of time to separate myself from the high energy, the high cortisol levels associated with whatever we were dealing with in that moment. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right? And because here's what does happen though, is that people that want to extract things from you, whether it's a politician trying to get your vote or a corporation trying to get your dollars or whatever it is, they're trying to get you in that emotional state. They're trying to drill, jab a knife right into your vulnerabilities. They're pouring salt on your childhood wounds to get you to have that emotional reaction, which will lead you to get up off of that money, to get up off of that whatever. Like so, if you listen to a lot of politicians telling you who you should vote for and why, they love to use fear. They love to scare the hell out of you, and I think they're tapping into something that's going to lead you to make an emotional decision. So I would say to you that if you can manage your triggers, I think I found that that really goes a long way to being able to be successful in every area of life. There's a book out there. I haven't read the whole thing. I read some of it though. I think it's called The Four Agreements or something. And I like that book because it kind of introduces very simple ideas that that I kind of like. One of them I liked in that book was something like don't make assumptions, like so someone has a reaction or something to something and you assume like, oh, you did that because you don't like me or because you're jealous or because you're mad at me or whatever, and it's basically saying like stop making assumptions, like just stop assuming that it's all about you and that they did that because of something that's wrong with you. Maybe you can take some time and go find out what's going on or don't make any assumptions at all. So let me give you some quick pointers on how therapy can help you in terms of financial decisions. First of all, there's a study in the Journal of Economic Psychology that found that emotional distress is closely linked to impulsive buying behaviors. By addressing underlying emotional issues in therapy, you can reduce your financially destructive habits. Also, it therapy can improve your decision making under stress. So a lot of times when you get into a conflict or get into an argument, when you are under that kind of stress, it can cause you to destroy a relationship that might have been beneficial to you financially or whatever the case may be. I've used examples of like music groups that are making lots of money together, but one day they just have a big argument, and next thing you know, this person isn't talking to that person, and they can't reconcile because there's no desire to reconcile. So the Journal of Psychology and Aging shows that individuals under stress tend to make riskier financial decisions. So therapy can teach techniques like mindfulness and cognitive reframing, which improve decision making under high stress situations. Also, therapy can improve communication and conflict resolution. That's a big one. A lot of us end up alone, struggling by ourselves because when something does go wrong in a relationship, we don't have that ability to communicate and resolve conflicts. That's why I believe the Nation of Islam is a great group for us to learn from, because I know for a fact I've never actually explicitly asked anybody. I think I kind of casually asked about it, but I have no doubt that they have a protocol for how they handle conflicts and disputes. Then the protocol is critical because it can help avoid situations where gossip or bad feelings or somebody's feelings being hurt can destroy a relationship. You get together, you talk about it, you work it out, you figure out what's going on, and then you kind of form your conclusions from that. And so the study of the Journal of Marriage and Family found that couples who engaged in therapy reported better financial communication and reduced conflict over money, which led to greater financial stability. Also, therapy can help you build confidence and reduce your financial anxiety. A study in the Journal of Anxiety anxiety disorders, highlights how therapy, particularly through interventions like exposure therapy, we talked about exposure earlier, and CBT can reduce financial anxiety, allowing people to take more calculated risks in investing and decision making. And that's true. When you talk about investing, risk is not the devil. Risk is fine, but it's got to be a calculated risk. It can't be a sloppy risk. And last but not least, the Journal of Positive Psychology found that individuals who engage in therapy have clarity and purpose in setting life goals, including financial ones. This clarity helps people make better economic choices that align with their broader life vision. So we talked about that before, living with purpose, knowing what your why is. If you don't know what your why is, like why you're doing this, like why are you coming to class every day? Why are you trying to level up financially? Why? When you figure out your why just drives you every day. And even I sit down, I'm like, well, why am I doing this? What is this for? And I have to be really clear about it because that's what's going to keep you focused. That becomes your North Star in the darkness, right? If you know your why, and you have clarity of purpose, then when you're in the darkness and things aren't going right or you don't know what to do next, you look at the North Star and say, okay, that's the direction I need to go. And most studies show that this seeps into your subconscious to the point where you find yourself heading toward the North Star, even when you aren't thinking about it all the time. Okay, so find your North Star, figure out your why, find your purpose, and that'll make a big difference. Also, consider therapy. I think therapy is valuable, it's powerful. My wife actually, if you go to my Instagram, Dr. Boyce Finance, I shared a video my wife put up. She wasn't talking about particularly this particular topic. I'm going to bring her in very soon to have her talk about this, but she was actually talking about even relationships and books that she read that she believes are like among the top 3 or 4 books that you'd want to look at if you want to have healthy relationships with other people. You want to have better relationships with your children, with your spouse, with your friends, with your business partners, with the people on the street. So feel free to go to Dr. Boyce Finance. That's my Instagram, and I put the video up there, and she lists the 3 books. Also, I should shout out her website if you ever wanted to meet her and talk to her directly. It's coachingwithdralicia.com. That's coachingwithdralicia.com. Okay, guys. So anyway, I'm going to bounce out. And again, if you want to join us today at noon for our stock options income introduction class, feel free to do that. I'll share the link if you want to do a $1 trial in the Prime program. The $1 trial, we can't leave that open for long. It's open only until tomorrow at midnight, actually. But after that, now it's $3.99 per month. So make sure you understand that part. And you could try it out for $1 and see if you like it. And if you like it, you can stay. If you don't like it, that's okay too. And so there's the link right there. I'm gonna put this in the chat. And also, what I'll do is I'll text out the $1 trial link today. If you want to get on the text list, text the word morning to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. I'm gonna send that link out in about 30 minutes or so, and you guys can do the dollar trial if you want to join us today at noon. And then I'll send out another link where you can actually come into the Zoom. So just be ready to get some text messages from me today. So I hope that that's okay. Now I say 39. No, not 3.99. Sorry, 3.99 is 399. It's not $3.99. So thank you, Robert, for clearing that. Yeah, 3.99 per month. So anyway, and you can look around and see comparable stuff out there and see if you how this compares for you. All right, guys. So I'm gonna get out of here. Have a good day. God bless you, and I'll see you today at noon, or I'll see you tomorrow morning as well. And